Hey everybody, this is Jacqueline Luqman.
And I'm Abdul Shahid Luqman, and welcome to Coffee, Current Events, and Politics, the most dangerous show on the internet. Yep.
So we are recovered a little bit from our
a little better.
flu.
Yeah.
I'm sounding a little better. You're sounding a little better.
And you know why I'm sounding better? If y'all
Right.
don't know, she's an old country girl. She's from the country,
I'm a country
So
girl.
the thing of it is that yesterday y'all didn't know because I was feeling a little bad yesterday. But then for some reason, man, she got this brown paper bag downstairs in the kitchen, man, full of like it looked like dirt and all this kind of stuff. But it's actually old Jarrett remedies and stuff. I don't know what she gave me yesterday, man. What kind of concoction or whatever it was.
Talk about what's in the brown paper bag.
It's like the commercial where the ancient Chinese secret. Yeah, it's like
the ancient Jarrett secret.
So anyway, I'm feeling a little bit better today. I'm glad that we're back.
Yes.
And I had I had a very difficult job today. First of all, let me say before I go in there, I want to welcome everyone.
Welcome
to Coffee, Current Events, and Politics in Luqman Nation. Like I said before, it's the most dangerous show on the internet. And big shout outs to our regulars like Michelle Novello.
Hey Michelle.
My cousin Apostle Ray
What's
Wilkerson.
up, Ray?
We got Pat Lane on
Hey,
and others that
Pat.
are joining us. So we welcome you. And we're just going to give a few moments for people to settle in. Share,
like I'm doing.
Share, and invite your friends. Basically, just hang out with us. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Yeah. I had my job today. I was busy today.
Yeah,
and my job was that because yesterday we did a show while the State of the Union was going on. So my job, in order to prepare for the show today, was I had to rewatch that crap.
He did it. I wasn't.
I had to sit there and rewatch that crap, and so we can get our notes for the night and stuff like that. It was very, very painful, and it was painful because this is the longest State of the Union ever
in the history of states of the union.
Yep, since they started measuring, and since they started taking these type of records. This State of the Union yesterday, I think it was like for an hour and a half or something like that. But it was long.
It was long.
And I can tell you it was boring because I had to sit through it. It was boring. And I just called it an alt-right pep rally. That's what it was to me.
Wow. And remember last night when I said that it reminded me of Man in the High Castle. The last scene from the last episode of the last season of Man in the High Castle.
Right.
It was a little bit chilling and frightening, but very reticent of that kind of fascist pep rally. And we didn't plan the whole alt-right pep rally. You just came up with that.
I came up with that because watching this, and like you said, symbolism is everything. And what it came across, it was like, wow, and to see the dissent. And we're going to talk about the dissenters, the Congressional Black Caucus, and with their kente cloth, and we're going to get into why I think that's a bunch of crock. But anyway, so here we are.
Yeah,
Trump's first in the bag already.
Yep.
The longest. But this is the thing. One of the things that came across that was troubling to me is the fact that. You know how after all these State of the Unions, they always take a poll on who liked this and who liked it.
Right.
All right. But really, it didn't surprise me that like 72 or 75% of the so-called conservative base,
of course they loved it.
Right. They were creaming themselves over it. What really got me was the 43% of Democratic people who were polled who claimed to be Democrats, who said that they felt that. That they were in love with this speech.
Are you serious?
43%
of Democrats, self-described Democrats, like this.
They said that and not only did they say they liked what he said, they said that they felt that Trump's policies were good for the country. I also had to read that too. Pat Lane said we're getting an echo, so we might.
We're getting an echo. Okay, I think our microphones are probably a little bit too close to each other. So I might
have to move over a little bit. Pat, let me know if it's getting. Well, Pat, let me know if it's the sound is getting a little better. If it is, just let us know, and Okay, we'll make some adjustments for that. So yeah, so 43% of Democrats polled said that Trump knocked it out the ballpark. This is what they said.
And so this is why we are here. This is why we exist. This is why we do this show, because
and why we're so dangerous.
And because information and knowledge is power. And the only reason anybody, I don't care who it is, I don't care if it's conservatives, I don't care if it's Democrats, the only reason anybody would actually think that anything Trump said was good or that he's doing a good job is only because they don't know anything.
Right.
They don't know anything. They don't know that he's really lying. A lot of stuff he said was just not true. Or could it be that many of those people who claim to be Democrats really are like secret in their heart kind of conservatives, and they really don't want to do crap for other people who are not like them anyway?
Well, I don't know. And let's not fool ourselves. You know, the State of the Union, no president can really do bad at a State of the Union. State of the Union addresses are set up to make the president look good.
Right, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, the State of the Union address is for the president to really, like, you know, pat himself on the back, take credit for stuff that he hasn't done, that he really didn't do, and basically, you know, paint this picture of of the country or the State of the Union, paint the picture of the State of the Union that we know really doesn't exist the way that they say. There's not a president who, after a State of the Union address, doesn't get a bump.
Right.
Because there's no, you know, because you have the rebuttals after the State of the Union, and you know, and usually, you know, people just pass them off as, oh, well, they're just the haters, you know, but this is really the president's moment to shine on the State of the Union. Right. So I mean, so we can't get all caught up about oh wow, have Trump really hit this out the ballpark? Right. I mean, the State of the Union is set up for presidents to make themselves look good.
Exactly. It is. Aside from this particular one being like the alt-right pep rally, the State of the Union address really is like the presidential pep rally. Honestly,
that's what it is.
All of them, they all are.
That's right.
But this one is particularly problematic, and I got to change my glasses here to the glasses that will help me see things on the monitor over here, because we're going to share some information with you. You know how we like to do, because we don't like for you to think that we're just making this stuff up.
No, we never make it up.
No, we're not making this stuff. We're not making up the fact that Trump he didn't tell the truth about a lot of stuff that he said last night. So let's just get right to it. All right? The Hill. Now, we're not going to read this whole article because it's long, because Trump talked for an hour and a half.
Yes, he did.
So he told a lot of half-truths, three-quarter truths, and just flat-out lies.
And some don't recall.
And
you know.
But let's go into the basic stuff. Just a few things that were pointed out by The Hill. Trump outlined the 4 pillars of an immigration reform package that he said would satisfy or at least mollify both parties, including a path to citizenship for 1.8 million immigrants brought to the country illegally as children. All of a sudden now, conservatives are celebrating a path to citizenship again.
Right, exactly.
But like a few weeks ago, it was like, nope, deport them all. It just.
I mean, and the thing that he was tying it in with the building of this wall.
Right.
You know, that their future in this country was based on whether he can get this wall up or not.
Exactly. And the thing that The Hill points out throughout this entire article, yes, we're going to give you a link to it, is the fact that because the president actually knows nothing about policy, he's really light on details about how any of this is going to get done. So he said a bunch of stuff. Like he declared the opioid epidemic terrible.
Right.
It was terrible. The opioid epidemic is just terrible. Without actually offering a plan. He didn't even pretend to make something up. You know, I'm gonna have the drug czar. Remember when the drug czar was introduced?
I think that was under that might have been under either Reagan or the first Bush.
Right. So it's like other presidents have at least pretended to sort of kind of fake like they were going to address the growing drug epidemic in this country. At some point, Trump, he doesn't, I'm telling you, he doesn't know the drug czar exists. He doesn't. He didn't offer a plan to address the terrible opioid epidemic. He just said it was terrible. That was it. The Hill says he asked Congress to pass a bill to generate $1.5 trillion in new infrastructure investments. Now, look, we need that.
Right.
We're not going to sit here and say that that doesn't need to be done because we hate Donald
Trump. But mind you, now this was because I also for our audience's knowledge is that I also went over Barack Obama's first State of the Union address. I did that, to compare the two. And in Obama's first State of the Union address, he also asked for a multi-billion dollar infrastructure bill, which we know was never passed.
Right. It was piecemealed through the stimulus.
Exactly.
And the stimulus was a tiny fraction of what Obama asked for. So, and to be clear, every president had what Trump is asking for here, this $1.5 trillion in infrastructure investments. Guess what that is, y'all? It's a stimulus. Every president, Bush passed a stimulus package. The first Bush did. The second Bush did. Obama passed a stimulus package. A stimulus is not like a dirty word.
No,
it's
right.
just a spending bill to help the country. It's a spending bill. But, that people are acting as if Trump asking for this $1.5 trillion in new infrastructure investments is like a new and shiny thing. But like you said, Obama did the same thing. They just wouldn't give it to him. Not all of it. Trump said federal money should be bolstered by public-private partnerships. Google being mean because it doesn't want to share the information.
Yeah, but he said that that he wants this public-private partnership to work hand in hand in order to get this stimulus package, as you say, or this infrastructure bill passed.
Right.
Which, again, going back, looking back at how government and private businesses worked before, it's never really a good thing in a lot of parts. And going, one of the things about it, going back to Obama's request for infrastructure plan, Obama wanted this under a massive jobs bill.
Right.
That he was president for 8 years. We couldn't get it.
Right.
So now here we are in the age of Trump, and Trump is asking again for a massive infrastructure bill, which is supposed to put a lot of people to work and this and that and the other. I think what was interesting to me, and we'll get back to this, what was interesting was when me and you was in the car yesterday, and this is the reason why the Democrats pissed me off. I'm going to tell you why the Democrats. Why? There was a Democrat politician that you and I was listening to on the radio yesterday who was talking about Trump's request for the infrastructure bill for that to be done. And the first thing she said is, which is why Democrats piss me off, is she said, well, that would be nice to have, but how are we going to pay for it? Now, as I recall, is the fact that these are the same Democrats who didn't question how the government was going to give that $700 billion to the Pentagon just recently. And now Trump is also talking, and he said this in the State of the Union, Jackie. He said, we need, and I thought this was funny. He said, we need to rebuild our nuclear arsenal. Now, the word rebuild.
Did somebody break our nuclear
Well, that's arsenal? The thing. Did somebody disassembled our nukes?
Somebody take our nukes apart?
Or break them away so that now he's asking for money to rebuild our nuclear weaponry. And he said this, and it's just so typical Trump. We're going to make it so strong that nobody would dare come against us, and our nukes are going to be the strongest in the world. What was really funny to me was looking at the faces of the Joint Chiefs of Staff when he said that. Like, they were sitting there like, I don't believe that we have to serve this idiot. Because if you ask, and they've done this, if you ask the generals, American generals, whose nukes would you rather have, Russia's or American nukes? And all the generals would say our nukes are I mean,
we have more and bigger,
and our nukes are more technologically advanced.
Right.
But I mean, look, I'm against nukes. I wish we get rid of all of them. But what I'm saying is that, there is no pushback from the Democratic Party on none of this stuff. But yet this Democratic politician, I think she was somewhere from the Northeast, and she said, "Oh, but how are we going to pay for it?"
And that's the kind of hypocrisy. And I got to apologize for losing the Hill article. We'll give you a link to that article. Google just decided it didn't want to keep playing nicely with the Hill. So, but that's the kind of weakness that annoys me with the Democrat. They're spineless. The entire, all this stuff about, a bunch of Democrats boycotting the State of the Union yesterday. So see, at least with the Republicans, as crappy as their policies are, I'm sorry, at least they have balls. At the very least, they stand up for the ridiculous, twisted stuff they believe in. Wrong is two left shoes, and evil is Satan himself. Yes, that's true. At this point, the modern GOP, there's nothing redeemable about them now. So please don't think that we're like supporting the GOP. But there is something to be said for politicians who have some damn guts.
Well, I mean, but what you said, mate, is true. Is that the GOP remain focused on what they believe in? They remain focused. I mean, look, they're for big business. I mean, they never stepped away from that.
Yep.
They never stepped away from a bloated military budget. I mean, they're all about business and military.
Yep.
Business and military, and private, and the private sector,
right,
as far as it comes to
eliminating regulations.
Yeah. I mean, this is what they stand on. They stand on guns, and they stand on all. So I mean, so they never really backed away from those core values that they and their supporters support. Right. The Democrats, on the other hand, don't know what they stand for.
Well, here's the thing, and this is where I disagree with you slightly. The GOP stands for those things, corporate focus and the free market and no regulations and profit everywhere. The Democrats support that too. They are just honestly not brave enough to say it to our faces.
Well, we said
they lie.
Right, and we said this on the show when we were talking about the difference between the conservatives and neoliberalism, which is what the Democrats are. Right. And the fact that neoliberalism is just oppression with a smile.
That's all it is.
They pretend to support you, but in actuality, as you said, and I agree with you on that, they basically support the same things.
Right. So okay, let's because the Hill article crashed, we do need to talk about the things that Trump did not tell the truth about in his State of the Union. Fact checking. Right. So let's try the Washington Post fact checking. And I have to say this, because a lot of our progressive friends now, y'all are just like, oh, if you get any information from any major news outlet, then the information is bad because man, stop, grow up. You have to learn how to intelligently discern information.
That's true.
Regardless of where it comes from. So please don't dismiss these facts just because they come from the Washington Post. And if you do, don't comment on our stuff doing that, because we're not going to pay any attention to you with that foolishness. Anyway, okay, so from the fact check article from the Washington Post, this is a quote from Trump from last night. Since the election, we have created 2.4 million new jobs, including 200,000 new jobs in manufacturing alone. Trump often inflates the number of jobs created under his presidency by counting Election Day, rather than when he took the oath of office. I mean, how depraved do you have to be to lie? You've only been in office a year, and you're already, oh my gosh. There have been about 1.8 million jobs created since January 2017, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the slowest gain in jobs since 2010.
Which proves that the job growth that is happening now is because of Obama.
Exactly.
He is actually what the economy that we have right now. Trump was right on a couple of things. The stock market is at an all-time high. Mm-hmm. Unemployment is low. And as you just said, right, as you just showed right there, even though it's the slowest growth job-wise under Trump, still Trump is the inheritor of a Barack Obama administration.
Exactly.
This is the fruits of the fruits of Obama's administration starting to pay off.
Exactly. This is just the end of the wave.
That's what it is.
That's all it
right.
is. And there are problems with some of these job growth numbers. We talked about it a little bit last night. We'll keep talking about it. So because when they talk about job growth, they never talk about what kind of jobs. They never talk about whether these are full-time jobs, whether they're part-time jobs, whether the people who have these jobs and they're part-time want a full-time job instead. They don't talk about whether these are minimum wage jobs or not. They don't talk about a lot of things when they talk about all these jobs created. They just make this general statement that 200,000 jobs were created. And because people don't investigate, they don't research, they take this to mean this generally good thing. But it isn't always.
Right. And you know, to be fair, we don't have a media that takes time, you know, because we live, even though we have a 24-hour news cycle, we still don't have a media that seeks to break any of this stuff down, to actually show what, you know, what is real and what isn't real.
Right, exactly. So let's go on, because we got to get through this stuff. Trump also said that after years of wage stagnation, we are finally seeing rising wages. Trump again takes credit for something that began to happen before his presidency. Wages have been on an upward trend since 2014, and in fact, their growth slowed during the first year of his presidency. Now they just passed the tax bill, right? And he was making a big deal about his tax bill already making a difference in workers' lives. But
you just signed it.
It hasn't been implemented. It hadn't even been implemented, so nobody got any money this year or last year because of a tax bill that hadn't been implemented yet. I don't know how people never made that mental connection, but people just didn't. But the reason he's able to say stuff like this to his base, because here's another thing that's true about the State of the Union address. They should be. Some presidents do talk to the whole country. But this one, no, he was definitely talking to his base. He wasn't talking to the rest of us. He was talking to the people he knows voted for him and the people he wants to continue to evangelize his message. Even him and the GOP.
Even though and even though the theme of his State of the Union was unity.
Right.
It was supposed to be, you know, and that's what's so scary about this whole thing. Because the 43% of the Democrats that whom I spoke of earlier, who said that Trump knocked it out of the ballpark, they also drank the Kool-Aid. They sat up there and said, "Oh wow, you know, we really believe that Trump wants to unite us."
So he is able to get away with saying ridiculous stuff like we're finally seeing rising wages because people don't actually pay attention or do the work to just go Google stuff.
Right.
They just don't. So he can say ridiculous stuff like this. According to the fact-checking article in the Washington Post, they say it's possible to argue wages were stagnant from 2000 to 2014, but the median salary has been increasing steadily since then. Since 2000, it actually declined in the fourth quarter from $355 a week to $345 a week in inflation-adjusted dollars. That's just how much money people make. That doesn't even really account for the rise in inflation. and a host of other factors like income inequality and wealth inequality.
Right.
So what we know, we have not seen. Okay.
But also, you know, again, even in this article, they talk about income stagnation from 2010 to 2014, something like that. How about income hasn't grown in the last 30, 40 years?
It has not grown and kept up with the pace of inflation.
In about 40 years.
In 40 years.
Exactly.
So when you don't make the connection with that statistic, of course you're going to think that some blowhard standing behind the seal of the United States saying that we're seeing wage increases is a good thing, because you don't know the truth, because you like being lied to. And I just can't, there's no nice way to put that. A whole bunch of people in this country love being lied to. That's part of the reason we have President Trump. Anyway, let's get to the good stuff. African American, this is what Trump said last night.
Right.
African American unemployment stands at the lowest rate ever recorded. And Hispanic American unemployment has also reached the lowest levels in history. I love how he always uses these.
But that's typical Trump.
It is. Everything is the greatest, the most in
that's
history ever, in the universe, in the galaxy, the best.
Exactly.
Everything is a superlative with him. Here's the truth about the app. We talked about this last night, but this is from the fact-checking article. This is a flip-flop by Trump. It's a lie. During the 2016 campaign, Trump used to claim a for Pinocchio statistic, another lie. He used to lie and say that 58% of African American youths were unemployed. The official Bureau of Labor Statistics unemployment rate for black youth at the time, nationally, this was nationally, was 19.2%. It is true that if you look in certain cities, the unemployment rate for black youth can be as high as 50%. Black male youths can be as high as 50%. That's true.
Not 58%.
Per city, but not 58%. And not nationally.
Right.
About 1/3 of the rate used by Trump. Now that he's president, Trump appears all too happy to cite the unemployment rate for African Americans, bragging that it's the best since the turn of the century. The truth is, the African American unemployment rate has been on a relatively steady decline since it hit a peak of 16.8% in March 2010. It is important to remember that even at 16.8%, it was still twice as high as the white unemployment rate.
Right.
All right? Always has been during the Great Recession. The rate had already fallen to 7.7% when Trump took office. When he took office, it was 7.7%. It was it's the ebb of the wave from the Obama administration. It was already happening.
But let's examine a little closely, and I think that we touched on a little bit of it last night. But the reason why the African American unemployment rate is low as it is the fact, and we alluded to a lot of this yesterday. Number one is the fact that when you keep locking up a bunch of black males, there's less black males to apply for jobs.
And then when you start running out of black men to lock up, and you start going after black women.
So that's number one. So mass incarceration. When the last time we checked with mass incarceration, you had 1.5, almost 2 million black men incarcerated,
right? State
and federal prisons. Now that's one aspect of the effects on black male unemployment or employment. The other effect on black male employment is that 7 out of 10 black males in this country is either on parole, probation, or have some kind of contact with the criminal justice system. 7 out of 10. So if you got 7 out of 10 black males who have some connection with the criminal justice system, how difficult is that to get a job?
Right. And see, the conservatives and some centrist Democrats and even some black people will say ridiculous stuff like, well, if you just don't break the law, you wouldn't have that problem.
But my point ain't them arguing that.
Right.
My point is that how numbers don't never tell the whole story.
Exactly. And you're right.
Right. So when you have almost 2 million black men in prison right now, can't get out. Then you got 7 out of 10 black males who are either on parole, on probation or have some kind of connection with the criminal justice system, we all know how difficult it is to apply for a job, and and you have that type of baggage on you.
Exactly.
Number three is the fact that the black males who are out here trying to look for work, take DC for instance, and we all know that a lot of times black males are shut out, and we got a lot of construction going on right here in DC. A lot of black males are being marginalized based upon the fact that they can't even apply for these numbers come from counting who's on unemployment,
right,
and who frequents the labor department and actually apply for jobs. A lot of black males are working for companies that's under the table. So a lot of times they're not even counted.
Wow.
So you got a lot of black males who, because they have a connection with the criminal justice system and they can't go through the legitimate means of getting jobs, they go to places like, I'm not going to mention any names, but they go to a lot of these companies that we have here in DC, where everybody knows that if you want to make money, you go there, but you're off the books.
Right.
And so they go there, they work. But but they're not getting what we call the traditional paycheck.
Right.
They're not, no one's taking taxes out. They're doing piecemeal work. So a lot of black men are doing that type of work. So they're not being counted. And a lot of black men who are given a hard time collecting unemployment, because now let's look at how unemployment goes. Unemployment is based on quarters.
Right.
So if you're a black male and you didn't work part of the year, or you didn't work a certain part of your lifetime, but you work, then you're working, you got laid off. You can't get unemployment because you don't have enough money in the system.
Right.
So they can't even count you then.
Exactly.
So what I'm saying is that a lot of times, and this is why we're here to break down these numbers for you, because when Trump or any other politician start talking about how the black male unemployment rate is so low, they're just skimming the surface.
Yep.
They're just skimming the surface, because we'll look at that, like when he made that announcement, everybody stood up and cheered. Yay, look at us. Oh, yay, them Negroes can't complain now. Look, they but at the same time they're cheering, but it's really not good news.
Right.
It's not good news, because what happened is, because of mass incarceration, because of the prison industrial complex, because of the marginalization of black men in the workplace, for the most part, what you're dealing is a large population of black men had to go underground. Right. So you drove a population underground, and you can't count them.
And let's be clear, because my point was that we're not talking about just like this entire population of criminally minded, animalistic, recalcitrant people. No, we have well-established history that black people have been targeted by this system and driven to the criminal justice system from elementary school all the way through when they get locked up, from unfair and disproportionately focused expulsion, detention, and expulsion policies that first targeted black boys. Now they're targeting black girls, and now they're just kicking black kids out of school at disproportionate rates for the same infractions that little white kids make, starting at elementary school, preparing kids for the school to prison pipeline. And they're doing it in neighborhoods that are already heavily policed by biased police officers who employ stop and frisk policies and look at all young black people in general, and all young black people in particular, as criminals. Then they get involved in the criminal justice system that favors plea bargains over jury trials. So you got a bunch of people sitting in jail because they're poor and they can't afford bail, but they haven't actually been convicted of a crime. And as long as you've got an arrest record, that impedes your ability to get a job. That's how insidious this is. We're not just talking about, Ray Ray who's, slinging drugs out of his grandma's house. No, we're talking about a population that has been under siege in this country for centuries. So
this, and so getting back to the point, is this is the reason why we're not, people say, well, and because I've heard this on conservative radio today, well, why aren't you guys happy that the black unemployment rate is low, because we know that it's bullshit. We understand that that's not telling the whole truth.
Exactly.
You know, it's not. Yeah, of course, I would love for every black person, male, female, whatever, to be able to get a job or to be able to work to support themselves. I mean, you know, we would all love that. But the thing of it is, don't sprinkle sugar on shit and say that it's good to eat.
It's a sandwich.
Right. I mean, come on. You know, so this is what we're talking about. And when you understand how what they used to call juking the stats, you know, government is good for that. Juking the stats, you know, making numbers be whatever you want them to be. Once we understand that the government has always been into that and juking the stats, I mean, the fact that that government is famous for taking numbers and those numbers not reflecting what the reality is. So I mean, so it's not that we're not happy about it. It's not that we're not happy. We would be happy if it was true.
That's
the thing.
That's it.
We would be happy if it was true.
That is absolutely the key right there. If this were an accurate reflection of reality, we'd be celebrating too.
Of course. I don't care who's the president. If black folks if you know, like what's that song by Kindred the family whatever. But
Kindred the Family Soul.
Yeah, they got a song. I want all my people around me, everybody eating good. Everybody. Yeah, I mean, you know, so me too. I want all the people around me eating good. You know, so I mean, if you know, we can go outside our front door and we see more and more people where we live at going to work and getting jobs and stuff. Well, I mean, who wouldn't want to celebrate that? Yep. But again, we don't want to get lost on the point that it's not. You know, we're not being anti-Trump for the sake of being anti-Trump,
right?
And I want that to be known. I mean, it's like if you know, I was for I when Trump was running for office, one of the positive things, and he didn't mention this in his State of the Union either, but one of the positive things that I said, well, if he could do this, I said maybe you know, I could support that, and that was when he said that he was going to promote a Marshall Plan. Right. For the inner cities, that he was going to, you know, he was going to propose policy that would infuse massive amounts of government money, investments into the inner cities that would create jobs, that would rehab a lot of this housing, and basically, like I said, a Marshall Plan for the inner cities. Mighty funny. I saw an hour and a half of that State of the Union, and I have not heard mention that. And the woman who was supposed to be the head of that, you know, she's no longer in the White House, which is Omarosa. Omarosa was supposed to be the head of that. Omarosa, she was too busy promoting herself, planning her wedding, promoting herself, being the Instagram chick, and you know, but that was supposed to be under her. You know, under her purpose. Yeah. But I didn't hear anything about that. I want to talk about while we're on this thing. I want to talk about the way that black people have been used because I seen some, you know, and all these presidents have done this. I think this started with Reagan, but all these presidents have done this habit of inviting people, using their personal stories for whatever. Yeah. Like there's little Julio right there, and you know, and he did such and such and such, right. and he's here today, and you know, everybody applauds and stuff, right? And I think Reagan started that, and so it's been the habit of every president since, you know, and you know. But what I'm saying is that the way that I saw black people being used by this president, I felt was very troubling to me.
Yeah, we were doing our stream when the black family stood up during the State of the Union address, and they got an extended applause. So we had the volume off, so we had no idea what he was talking about in relation to these people, and they were crying. They were passing around the little, you know, mini Kleenex pack amongst themselves. So we had no idea what these people's story was. And when we found out what it was today, we were appalled that these people allowed themselves to be used like pawns by Trump and the GOP at the State of the Union address. This is a really horrible situation because of the family's pain because they were there because their daughter apparently was murdered by, allegedly by members of MS-13.
Right.
Trump, and this was a black family.
Yeah.
So this is a young black girl who was murdered by members of MS-13, the notorious gang from what is it? Latin America,
El Salvador, something like that,
or whatever. But anyway, MS-13 is always the focal point of Trump's anti-immigration spiel, his build a wall spiel. You know, because they're the rapists and the drug dealers that Mexico is sending America, according to him.
Right.
So he invited these people to Capitol Hill to be used as pawns, because that's what he did, as basically putting a human face on the horror of this illegal immigration scourge. But he didn't invite a white family, because this is how I really believe this went. Because these people, we have to get out of our minds that people who do these kinds of things are they don't know what they're doing, or they're just accidentally. No, they went out and searched for a brown or black family to be the face of the victims of illegal immigrant violence. I know they did it, because remember, there was a white lady who was murdered by someone from Latin America and an undocumented immigrant.
Oh, I think that was out in California. I think there was like a rape and murder or something like that.
Didn't invite her. Didn't invite her family, rather. Now I'm not sure. Maybe he did invite them and they just didn't want to come. But I don't believe for one second that they did not intentionally seek out. Let's see if we can find some black people who were. I'm sure we can find some black people who were victims. So we can get black people to see that this is a problem they need to get behind fixing too. And it's bad enough that in my heart of hearts, I know this is what they did. It was intentional. This wasn't like, hey, well, let's invite this family, and then, you know, they get a picture of the people and they're like, oh, hey, they're black. That's a bonus.
Well,
I don't believe that happened
yeah,
at all.
that's plausible, because you feel like the whole wall situation has been racialized.
Right.
It's been like this fear on the part of a white government on behalf of white America to keep brown people out. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that, and you know, I kind of agree with you. I don't know if that's happened, but it's highly plausible that someone said, well, we don't want to make the victims white, because that further polarize, racially polarize the issue of immigration.
Right.
And of the wall. So that could be true. But I can't help but see, and as you were saying, as using, and it was horrible. I know the story about this family and the girl who was murdered by these gang members. But I can't help but see how black people, how we allow ourselves to constantly be used as these political footballs that were being used. It's the same way with the mothers of the movement that we mentioned yesterday, when Hillary Clinton was running for office, and she had the mothers of Martin, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and others. You know, they were supposed to be the mothers of the movement.
Right.
And what happened was, you know, they were trumped around on stage, and they were allowed to tell their story, but nothing ever came. And this is the thing that, as black people and in this country, that we have to understand and really be honest. As much as politicians on the right and the left use black people and our issues for their own political gains, what policies come out of this that black people benefit from? Right. Like the mothers of the movement, there's nothing from government, even though that they paraded these women around. There has been no significant legislation against police brutality. There hasn't been no significant legislation about dealing with these police departments that have these horrible reputations. I just put a story on our page yesterday about Baltimore police having toy guns stashed in their police cars, just in case they shoot an unarmed person, they can plant the gun on them.
They need to plant a gun on them,
right? So
they can say, "Hey, they pointed. I thought it was a gun. Look."
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that even though you parade these women around and they allow themselves to be used in this way, what significant legislation has come out of that? Right. You know. So no, I mean, so Hillary Clinton, the Democrats, they're just as guilty.
Yep.
But the thing of it is that black people, we have to become more politically mature and stop allowing ourselves to be used in that manner. You know, I mean, if we're not getting anything out of this as far as policy, if we're not getting anything out of this as far as improving our lives and the lives of those who we live with, then what's the point?
Right. I mean, it's the same kind of question we should have been asking ourselves when Barack Obama was president. Like you said, it's the same thing we should have been asking when Hillary Clinton was running. And we really need to question that poor family being used by Trump. What are we going to get from anything Trump achieves by using that family and their pain? It was horrific, and it was just appalling, and it made my stomach turn when I found out who they were and why they were there, and the fact that they really allowed themselves to be used. They let these white people. Let's just keep it real here, okay? These black folks let these white people use them against brown people, so that white people can feel comfortable in kicking brown people out of this country and keeping more brown people out. That's what that was. And that is just a shame. Let me go on to this next part.
I wanted to, Tony made up a good point when he said, when we were talking about the whole using black people as symbols. And Tony said, well, just like Trump told black voters, what have you got to lose? Before an all-white crowd. I mean, that's true. It's like, you know, again, the disrespect. I mean, Trump didn't, because Trump is Trump. I mean, he didn't even go about hiding the disrespect with that statement. But again, you're right. I think that we need to be, we're always Americans as black people when it's convenient to get some racist, xenophobic stuff passed. I remember during 9/11. And, and I was in Newark, New Jersey at the time. And I remember 9/11, and there was a very robust debate amongst black people. Like, does this concern us? Right. I mean, right. Man, the same people that the terrorists are angry at, we're angry at. Like,
conversation here?
Yeah. So, and I remember, some white Americans that, we were all working together, and it was like, oh, how can you guys say that? You guys are Americans too. You should feel this. And, just that moment, I thought back and I said, well, damn, I'm American now because, right. Because now you have pinpointed an enemy. And now, your enemy is supposed to be my enemy.
Right.
But my enemy is never your enemy. You know what I mean? So my enemy is never your enemy, whether it's police brutality, whether it's the crappy schools, whatever that makes my life miserable day to day, and I identify this as my enemy. It's never your enemy.
And it's interesting you say that. Oh, we're cutting, our faces are cut off, so you have to.
No, because somebody said you had an echo or something. Okay. That's why I was.
Yeah, you have to keep the mic there, but just
right
closer to me. So. It's interesting you say that their enemy is never our enemy, because you know who else said that? Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela said that when I think it was Reagan or some American president was mad at him because he was friendly, excuse me, with Fidel Castro.
I remember that. Yeah.
And he was, admonished strongly by the American government, you should cut ties with the blah, 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 blah. And Nelson Mandela made it very clear. He said, the problem with America is that you all always tell us who our enemies are supposed to be. But your enemies are never our enemies. And our friends are never your friends. Yeah. That's the situation we live in here in the United States. But continuing on, the State of the Union address from the African American perspective, that wasn't the only troubling thing. The thing with the family was not the only troubling thing that came out of Trump's State of the Union from the perspective of black people. This article is from Face to Face America.
Africa.
I'm sorry. Face to Face Africa. Yeah, I need new glasses because I did not see that at all. Face to Face Africa, which is even better. And they say that President Trump's first State of the Union address, like you said, the longest on record.
Yes, trust me. I had to sit through it. I know it was.
Covered a plethora of topics affecting the American people. The American people is a loaded term because it often dismisses disenfranchisement. Now, if the Africans get this, how in the world do we not?
Well, I think we do.
But see, we're afraid to say it.
Yeah, I think we do, and I think a lot of people in this country get it.
Yeah. So this article is great. It's short, but it says that the problem with Trump's speech, here again, he claimed to create 2.4 million jobs, with 200,000 being in manufacturing. He claimed that unemployment in the African American population reached an all-time low of 6.6%, but racial discrimination, bias, systemic racism all play a huge role in the amount and quality of jobs held by blacks. So this is the question they asked. So where and exactly what type of jobs are blacks obtaining, sir? These are the kinds of questions we need to be asking our elected officials.
That's right.
When they make these kinds of statements. Don't just sit there and applaud, or, as a particular group of black legislators did, sit there and not applaud. We're going to get to that in just a minute. This is another point that speaks very much to the entrepreneurial pushers, the folks who push entrepreneurship as the solution to black poverty. The middle class and small business owners in America are predominantly white. That's true. Small business owners are old white males. The majority of small business owners in this country are old white men. It's true. So it is this demographic that are receiving the tax cuts that the president bragged about implementing. How's that helping black people? How is that helping? And let me just make it clear. Most black people are not going to benefit from this tax cut just by filing some LLC paperwork. For a whole lot of reasons, least of which being most black people can't afford to file LLC. Okay, but that's a whole nother discussion. All right. So those earning a substantial amount of money from their business ventures are receiving the additional honor of paying fewer taxes, while those in lower tax brackets are still dishing out major bucks. This contributes to the robbing Peter to pay Paul adage, as any working class black adult knows their salary doesn't stretch very long. The tax rate has now gone from 35% to 21% for corporations.
Right.
That's not for you and me. That's not for the working class. That's for corporations. And what they actually don't mention in this article that we must not forget, the tax cuts for corporations are
permanent. Yep.
The tax, whatever tax relief citizens get, temporary.
Yeah. Oh, right. just to let Tony, we will post this article.
Yes.
As soon as we're done tonight.
Yes, we will post this article. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. They talk about the Patient Affordable Care Act. It needs to be made very clear that Donald Trump did not repeal Obamacare.
He couldn't.
He didn't repeal Obamacare. They repealed the individual mandate,
exactly,
which was the fine that you were going to get if you didn't sign up for.
Which I agreed with that.
Which I agreed with because I never thought that was fair. That was always wrong. I always felt like that was really wrong. So I actually don't have a problem with that. You know, good. But Obamacare is not repealed. You can still get coverage under the Affordable Care Act. But we want to get to the end of this article. Told you it was short. This paragraph right here. Trump uses doublespeak and inflated statistics to ensure that his followers are kept in the in the sunken place. Okay, white people can't be in the sunken place though. Black people who believe and support Trump stuff, they're the ones in the sunken. But I get what they were saying. All right, reality suggests that African Americans continue. Man, I need new glasses. Continue to be underrepresented. This is where we have a problem. The powerful display of Ghanaian kente cloth at the State of the Union address is a bold move in saying we are here and we will be heard.
And that's where and this is where I get off the bus. I was on the bus all the way up until we got to that point.
Yeah.
But I get off the bus here because I thought that the Congressional Black Caucus, I thought that it was a shameful display of what they were doing. I thought that the kente cloth was a shameful display. And the reason why I said it was what I believe it was a shameful display is that the Congressional Black Caucus has, and look, if you've been following us, you know my opinion about them. Not that I don't have respect for what they accomplished. Some of them are civil rights icons, if that's such a thing. But you know, a lot of them, you know, Eleanor Holmes Norton and all of them. But I just feel that the Congressional Black Caucus, they don't represent us.
Right.
And when I say us, they don't represent black people in the hood. They don't. And this, I mean, what you know how I feel as a constituent to see my elected officials being so disempowered.
Wow.
How is that? Yeah, I mean, to be so disempowered that the only thing you could do is wrap yourself in kente cloth and sit there and not clap.
Oh, wow.
You know, I mean, that's, you know, I mean that just said a lot to me as a black constituent of someone that they're supposed to represent. And I'm saying, like, you know, when was the last time that the Congressional Black Caucus put forth any type of meaningful legislation? When has the Congressional Black Caucus done anything en masse on behalf of black people? The last time that I remember them doing anything is when it had to include everybody else. And what I mean is John Lewis Cheney himself, and going back to the old civil rights playbook, when a bunch of white kids were a bunch of school shootings which involved a bunch of white children.
Right.
And but yet Chicago was bleeding left and right.
Right.
I mean, Camden, Philly. I mean, DC was bleeding left and right. John Lewis didn't seem to want to chain himself. You know,
to pass any kind of
legislation. No legislation whatsoever.
That some type of help is needed in our communities to help people who are trying to address those issues. No, nobody chains themselves to a lectern for us.
And I mean, and then they went out of their way to get black folks behind Hillary Clinton. You know, and so what I'm saying is that I just felt like this is the best y'all can do. Like, this is the best you can do. Like, to show up and I mean, why? For what? Like what? You know, I mean, what does all of y'all wearing Clinton cloth is supposed to say to Trump?
Right. And it was I when we were doing the show last night, we didn't see that part, but apparently the bold statement the author of this article was talking about was that when Trump made the comments he did about the African American unemployment rate, the Congressional Black Caucus, who were all dressed in most of them were dressed in black, but they all had kente cloth scarves on. Or some type of kente cloth. They're just sitting there stoically while this man stands at that lectern and lies.
I mean, they're sitting there. I seen when I watched it today. I could see in their heads And I watched them in their faces, and I seen in their heads, they was like, "We shall overcome."
but they didn't want to say anything because they don't want to be disrespectful.
Right. You know, someday.
Now you remember?
Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe. Stop lying, Trump. We shall overcome. And and what I'm saying is that please, we can't win with people like this representing us, man.
No. I mean, remember Obama's first State of the Union address?
Someday.
When Representative Joe Lewis got up and shouted, "You lie!"
Oh yeah.
And Obama actually wasn't lying. But this is the backbone that I'm talking about that the GOP had. They could be crazy as that's okay. I'm not going to say that because that's kind of disparaging to mentally ill people. But they could be wrong as two left shoes. Evil as the worst evil is, and at least they have the courage of their very wrong convictions to stand on their wrong convictions. Democrats, not so much.
And I get right.
They just sit there and it's like, no, we're just not going to agree with that. No, we're in a situation in this country where we seriously need some people to act a fool.
And I guess what I'm really trying to say in all of that is the fact that I just think that I think that thank you, Sue Summer. She said check out those pipes. But I think what I'm really trying to say is it's a meaningless display of resistance. And that's why, I mean, if you really want to resist Trump, if they really want to resist Trump, then put forth some damn legislation. Organize. I mean, somebody has said this early before, and I wanted to get your take on it, Jackie, is why did it have to have 5 separate? Now, the Democrats hurt themselves with 5 different responses to one State of the Union address.
Really?
I mean, come on.
Really, but what would have been appreciated from the Congressional Black Caucus. I mean, the Democrats already had 5 responses, so what one more wouldn't have hurt. If that gesture of sitting there wrapped in kente cloth, which Donald Trump doesn't care about. I don't
even think he's seen it.
I don't think he saw it. If he saw it, he probably didn't know what it was. It didn't mean anything to him. And honestly, as a voter, as a constituent, as an African American, from those people, from the standpoint of policy, it doesn't mean anything to me either. Look, at the moment, the issue that we're talking about,
it's so 90s. Kente cloth is so 90s.
It's so 90s.
I mean, this shows you it's so 90s.
It's just
like from In Living Color or something.
What would have been appreciated, appropriate, and powerful and meaningful would have been if the Congressional Black Caucus had their own response and they outlined all the stuff we just told you about the African American unemployment
But you're not
rate.
going to see it.
But you're not going to see it.
No, you're not going to see
That's
it.
why we do it.
Yep.
But these are the people who sit there and tell their black constituents that they're in there legislating for them. They're working for them, and they're not even standing up for the truth. So that little display of "we shall overcome," that's all that was.
Yep.
That is all that was. And let me just say, now that we've gotten Trump out of the way, I think we talked enough about him. Whew, for one night. Let me just say, let's just make it real clear. Trump is not the only problem black people have in this country. The conservatives are not the only problem black people have in this country. The Democrats are not the only problem black people have in this country. Progressives, y'all are the problem too. Now, we've been saying that, alluding to it, kind of hinting around it a little bit, and we've been saying that we're really going to go in and explain to you what
why we say
mean,
what we mean.
We say that.
Yep.
We're not just picking on progressives because we don't like white people. No, we have precedent for what we say about current progressivism in its current form, this Bernie Sanders wave of progressive, it's not helping black people, and we have proof. So let's go to this article. What'd you write over there?
I'm just,
Are you doodling?
Yeah.
Think race isn't a problem in California? This is an article from the Mercury News. And the Mercury News is, I believe, out of San Jose, California. I know this because the Mercury News was the article that was the newspaper that Gary Webb worked for.
Oh, yeah, the CIA guy.
Yes, the San Jose Mercury News. And the story about how the CIA agents were funneling crack into black neighborhoods and funding funding the Contras broke in the San Jose Mercury News.
Well, I'd be damned.
Yeah. So that's how I know. So anyway, this is an article from the Mercury News. Think race isn't a problem in California. New reports show otherwise. This article is from December of last year. Says, don't be fooled by California's increasing diversity. Racial and ethnic inequity remains a key problem and a potential barrier to future growth, according to Race Counts, a new web tool that measures racial and ethnic disparities in the state's 58 counties. Marin County, for example, one of the wealthiest and most socially progressive communities in America, and we take issue with that.
Yeah, we do.
There's a history behind the reason we take issue with that. But the article says that Marin County ranks dead last when it comes to racial inequalities in several key factors, according to the data. Likewise, the 4-county Southern California region, Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino, are struggling with racial inequality in areas as these are all the things that the progressives say they want.
Yep.
These are all, and California is the progressive state in the country. It's the progressivist state in the country.
Oh, I mean,
right?
it's if you're talking about the Holy Land,
it's
progressive,
it's
the progressive Holy Land.
Well, not for black people, because the 4-county Southern California region are struggling with racial inequalities in key progressive areas: basic income, education, healthcare, and the justice system, incarceration. Now, listen, y'all. This is a problem. This is a problem when we have this nationwide groundswell of a grassroots so-called progressive movement. And you're telling me that progressive policies are going to be better for all people, but progressive policies are being implemented already in a very progressive state that's supposedly led by very progressive people, and black people still being asked out.
Exactly.
So explain to me how this new age of progressivism is anything better than the current system that we have.
Right. And I would venture to say that during the last election, black people were being shamed by white progressives outside of the Bernie camp, of course, but even with the Bernie camp, because we were shamed about, well, why enough of us didn't come out for Bernie. And, why, then on the other side, on the Hillary camp, or why black folks ain't come out. But see, the thing of it is, and I can say this about the Hillary camp, is that you got the so-called Hillary Democrats running California. And when I mean the Hillary Democrats, I'm talking about these established, elitist, so-called progressives, that's governors and mayors and everything else out there. And yet we posted a story online that we got online about a black woman in Portland, Oregon, who was $378 behind in her rent at a senior facility, senior citizen facility. Yeah. Who was put out. And now there's a cold wave going on now. We're about ready to get it, but there's a cold wave going on out there. And she was put out, and she froze to death in the parking garage in good old liberal Portland.
Liberal slash progressive Portland.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the incidences of, like you talked about last night, the incidences of public displays of racism in the progressive bastion of Seattle.
Exactly.
And you got white people who I bet you would call themselves progressives, calling black people niggas and whatnot in Starbucks,
right?
In department stores, racial discrimination in the workplace, in Seattle. But these are the progressive states. These are the states that the conservatives think is another country because they're so left.
Right.
But for black people, these states are no different from every other state in this country.
But it also tells me, Jackie, that's the reason why we as black people, we can't rely on, because I said, and the reason why we brought this up, because Jackie and I had a conversation. And when we looked at these things that we're talking about now, I said, man, what if progressives actually got their way and actually took over the federal government? Then, California was like a case study of how people would live under progressive rule. Right? California's a case study for that. So we looked at California, and and we was like, wow. So what if progressives actually got their way? And actually took over the White House and the Senate and the House and all this stuff, and they actually were in charge.
Right.
So California is telling me that I, as a black man, cannot trust progressives being in charge without me raising hell right along with y'all to make y'all do what is beneficial for me. What I'm saying is, I can't sit back as a black man and just say that, oh, well, the white progressives got it, we good.
Right. And see, not only have we had personal experience with that, all the stuff we've been through this past summer, like we said last night, the UNAC conference and the racism that came out of that from progressives, this move to work with the alt-right to get Medicare. I don't understand how it is y'all think that you're not going to be affected in areas of policy if you work with racists to get one policy passed. Don't you think those racists are going to work to make sure people who look like us don't get any of that? I mean, I don't, but the problem is that when black people point these things out, progressives don't want to hear it.
But that's my other point. My other point is that California also shows me what happens when black people don't advocate for themselves.
Exactly.
And when poor people don't advocate for themselves. When we get told that talking about our issues is somehow identity politics and is divisive and is all this stuff, this is what happens when we don't talk about it.
Exactly.
And when we don't advocate.
Exactly. Because Marin County, I want to loop back around to that. So what is it about Marin County?
Marin County was in the news a couple of years ago because, as socially progressive as they claim to be, they did not want affordable housing built in Marin County. It was a big court case about that, where they came out en masse to fight affordable housing in Marin County.
Now, these are people who identify themselves as progressive.
Right.
So they're supposed to be the people who want income equality and quality health care and quality education, but they don't want poor people living around them.
And it goes back again to how money and class is really the big enemy here. It's not so much because, I mean, if you look at it, people could call themselves progressives. But if you look at Marin County, one of the richest counties in the country, and everybody is supposed to be progressive, but yeah, we want to be progressive, but keep them black folks over there. Right. What I'm saying is that there's still a thing in this country of, and I read this a story from another author not too long ago. Somebody had posted, but it's really about caste.
Right.
And that's what it is. Right. And I think once we start to understand that even in the progressive movement, amongst progressives, especially progressives that got money, the rich progressives, the wealthy, it's about caste.
Right.
It's the caste system. So it's like, we're about progressive policies, but there's still this caste system that we're comfortable with.
That's right.
I mean, it's no different than the Trump crowd. The Koch brothers and the Trump crowd and them being comfortable with the caste system.
Exactly. And you see that played out in the kind of conversations that you will see progressive activists or progressive supporters interact with online, and even in the public protests. You've got people who are arguing with people about what they eat. You got people arguing about why they still eat gluten and why are they still eating sugar, and you need to get this kind of water filter, and you need to boycott Walmart. And you do know that some people live in places where all there is Walmart, and the only thing they can afford is Walmart. Oh, you have to stop. You shouldn't be using plastics, and you shouldn't be using this, and these cheap things are imported. I buy all my things organic. Poor people can't afford to buy organic stuff. There are no organic stuff in organic stores in poor neighborhoods. There's only the corner store and Walmart and Family Damn Dollar. And Family Dollar is full of cheap plastic shit from China that poor people can afford. But if you were concerned about the way poor people live and their quality of life, as opposed to getting everyone to live by your rules as a person who's able to make those kinds of choices, then we wouldn't be having this discussion. But we do have this caste system.
It is, yeah, it's definitely a caste system.
Yeah, where we have people in the progressive movement with a little bit more money than the rest of us who are able to make these decisions.
The thing of it is that I want these democratic progressive people out in California. I think Pelosi's from out there, and she Feinsteins and all. Well, all those, I want them to explain to me that if their politics is so much better than Trump's, why is it that so many black people are exiting California? We had a story where there is right now happening a mass migration of black people out of California because they can't afford to live there anymore. Places like Compton and Oakland is becoming quickly gentrified, and black folks are being priced out. San Francisco, we had an article that we was going to share today where it was talking about being black and lonely in San Francisco.
Oh, actually, put this up.
Right, so you have a mass exodus of black people fleeing California based upon so-called progressive policies, or let's not say progressive policies. Let's just say that it's business as usual as it is everywhere else in this country, no matter who's in charge, which means that the developers and everybody and the developers and all of those ilk, the bankers, and it's still catering to the money crowd at the expense of everybody else. And so it doesn't matter if you got Jerry Brown, who's the governor out there, who's supposed to be a progressive. Doesn't matter if you got the first black female mayor in San Francisco. It doesn't. None of these things matter. And what we're saying is that I felt, and I'm going to make this prediction, that after yesterday's State of the Union address, if Trump doesn't start a nuclear war, he's going to be president again. Trump is going to be a two-term president.
Did you get that feeling from last night?
I got the feeling from last night, and I'm going to tell you what gave me the feeling. It wasn't because Trump knocked it out of the ballpark. What gave me the feeling that he's going to be a two-term president is the lackadaisical attitude on the behalf of the Democrats. The fact that the Democrats have not put anything forward to give anybody like they didn't put a plan for it and say, look, this is what this is what we're presenting, and I know that it's early in Trump's presidency, but I guarantee you right now that short from starting a nuclear war, Trump's going to be our president again. You heard it here on Coffee, Current Events, and Politics. Trump is going to be our president. If he lives long enough, he's going to be, because they said he got clogged arteries.
That's true.
Yeah. Right. But if he lives long enough, but if it's not Trump, it's going to be another Republican.
I'm telling you.
Trust me.
There's no alternative.
We're not.
Democrats don't have an alternative, and progressives, y'all don't have y'all stuff together at all. You just don't. You don't, and you won't admit that you don't, because you don't want to listen to us.
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm saying is that, and let me, Carl, I'm going to get to your comment, because I think Carl is expressing a lot of the dismay a lot of us are expressing. He said, you know, that if Congress isn't progressive by November, I'm leaving by so long and I will try to live elsewhere. He also says, let's just leave, start grassroots organizations, and to leave and find somewhere else where we are accepted. Now, I understand that type of attitude. Especially as a black person, I understand that type of attitude, because it's like, you know, damn, we do, we damn, we don't. We ain't got no friends on the conservative side, and the progressives have shown that they really not serious. They really aren't serious about really starting this revolution like they claim. Some of them are, but what I'm saying is it's not enough to say that, man, we're going to really start this revolution and we are really going to make this country in a way where it's fair for everybody. But one thing that I will push back, Carl, is the fact that my ancestors invested too much of their blood, sweat, and tears in this country, and this is our inheritance. You know, I mean, whether they want to acknowledge it or whether they want to officially declare it, but this is our inheritance. And what I mean by that is that we have to go out and claim what's rightfully ours. I'm not going to give this up without a fight.
I'm going to fight.
I'm not going to give it up without a fight. And if I leave, I'm going to be leaving my grandkids behind. I'm going to be leaving my children behind. I mean, you know, so if I'm leaving, I want to be, if I have to leave, then I want to be able to take everybody. But I don't want my grandchildren to remain behind and be chased out by some rich-ass developer that's going to make sure that they don't have a place to live, or some bank that's going to price my kids out of higher education, or is going to make it hard for them to support themselves through employment, or maybe, you know, get a business or anything. You know, so we have to fight. But I do understand the attitude, and unless progressives are going to be serious and stop with the foo-foo Starbucks revolution and get serious, and I'm not just picking on white progressives. I'm talking about even those middle-class black progressives who toe the same line. You know, until we get serious and realize that we have to that we are fighting for the soul of this country. We are still fighting for the soul of this country, and we're not going to be able to do it unless we get our hands dirty. And that's the problem. Many of us don't want to get our hands dirty. We don't want to get our hands dirty. We don't want to be bloodied up. We don't want to go in there and get bloodied up and get our head bashed in. And we went to what was the UNAC conference, and here they're talking about having an anti-violent war demonstration with somebody talking about, well, we need to be committed to nonviolence. We need to be committed to nonviolence. Let me tell you something. The 60s are dead. Oh my God. The 60s are gone. And what I'm saying is the fact that we got to be out there to the point of we're at the point in this country. And let me say this, and if this scares some of y'all away, then so be it. But my point is that if you're not willing to lay your life down to get the soul of this country, then why even bother?
And see, that's always been the case for us. Ask the Native Americans. That's always been the case for them. That's always been our fight. For those of us whose families grew up in this struggle at some point, you know, we knew that there was always this thought in the back of our parents' mind, especially, you know, my mom integrated her high school. And she would tell me, yeah, I would get on the bus some days thinking, today might be the day I die. She was going to fucking high school.
Yep.
You know, my father had to fight white people at the bottom of his street because they didn't want black kids going down their street to get to the main road.
Exactly.
And yeah, my dad said that he grew up thinking these people might kill me today. And this was just everyday stuff for black people. They weren't, my dad at the time wasn't even in the struggle. My mom just felt like she was doing what was right. And we've got a bunch of people who are talking about now since 2016, since the election, since the rigged primaries, oh, they want a revolution, but they don't want to get dirty for the revolution. They want this clean cyber revolution where they can argue with people online and convince them to vote for a progressive. That's not how it works.
No. That's not how it works.
That's not how revolution works. Revolution is always, yes, there is an educational component. Yup. There is. But there's also a component where you need to get out in the streets, and there's going to be some fear, and there might be some violence. And sitting here declaring over and over again, making sure that we declare we are committed to nonviolence, who are we trying to convince? Because the people who don't want things to change, they're not committed to nonviolence at all. They are very willing to use all kinds of violence to shut us up and to keep us home. You've seen them do it.
Yep, and let's be clear that some of us may be the next political prisoners. So, so some of us may be the next political prisoners. And then there's some of us who, and again, we say this all the time, is the fact that we don't want to get bloodied, and we don't want to put our money where our mouths are.
Oh, that's the other thing.
We want, like you said, we want this clean, cheap storefront revolution where, we want to get all of this stuff, but we don't want to sacrifice anything.
Yeah. And the stakes are literally too high for that. I'm going to leave you with this graphic. You know how I love graphics. Love them. This is from the National Center for Children in Poverty. And this is a chart that shows
California
rate, the rate of child poverty by race in California. This is from 2015. 24% of white children in California live in poverty. 58% of black children in California live in poverty. California, most progressive state in the union. 62% of Hispanic children live in poverty. 29% of Asian, 50%
of Native Americans.
Native Americans live in poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, we submit to you that if you have a problem talking about black issues, black politics, reparations, mass incarceration, or anything that deals with...
Use that mic, some of them said they can't hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm going to unplug this one. Yeah. Because that one is clearly, it doesn't want to play well. It doesn't want to play well tonight. If you call yourself a progressive and you don't want to talk about black issues, black politics, if you don't like reparations, if you don't want to talk about how your favorite progressive issues will not address specific racial discrimination and systemic racism in this country, then I submit to you, not only are you not really a progressive, but you're not even my friend. You're my enemy. You are standing in the way of real progress for my children, for my progeny, for my people, for my family, for me. And I will fight anybody who stands in the way of my folks. That's where we are now, progressives. You have to understand, we just came through 8 years of Barack Obama.
Yes.
Where, remember you said you watched his State of the Union address?
I did, yeah.
And Barack Obama, what did you say? He didn't mention black people, not once.
He didn't mention black people once. I thought we all got sent back to Africa, he didn't mention us once.
We had 8 years of Barack Obama. He didn't even mention black people in his first State of the Union. Then we're in Trump's first year in office. He mentions black people in his State of the Union address, but he's spreading lies and he uses black people against brown people for the benefit of white people. And then on the other side, we've got progressives who want black people to support all of y'all white progressive causes, Medicare for all. You want us to support free college tuition or tuition forgiveness, but you don't want to talk about reparations for our kids, though. And then we've got the Democrats who want our votes, but who don't want to legislate for us. Those are our options. Those are the options of black people in this country. That's what we're facing. And that's what we've always been facing. So for y'all progressives who sit around and you want to argue online about, oh, well, black issues are divisive, and why are you making it about you, and we need to work with everybody to get these progressive issues good. No, we don't. We can't work with everybody, because everybody else have made it very clear that they don't want to work with us. California, Oregon, Seattle are perfect examples of that argument. So now, what are you going to do about that, progressives? Conservatives, Trump, that's easy. That's the obvious press. That's obvious. What are you going to do about this? That's the question. That's on you.
That's it. Yep.
So let's see. Do we have time for some comments from our friends?
Yeah, let me go through some.
Let me see what we can do with this microphone.
Well, we'll just share it back and forth.
Okay.
We'll do what we can. Okay. Let me see. Yes, Effie Wilder. That's why I passed the mic. So because yeah, there you go. Let me see. Dealt with that one. Let me go on down. Tony Darrow was talking about your sunken place comment. He said there may be a sunken place for poor whites, religious conservative whites, yeah, etc. But his point is taken.
Yeah, I can see. I can see that. Yeah.
But basically we covered most of the thing. Well, one of the things I would want to say, for those of you,
I'm sorry. I apologize. I just saw Summer Hazlitt's comment here. Summer said that even worse is that most cities in California are only 5% black. Come on, y'all.
Yeah, that's something that I want to look into a little bit more.
I'm angry all over again. I thought I had gotten my anger out. That just made me angry all over again at y'all, progressives. Seriously?
That's because they're all in California State Prison, because California has the highest incarceration rate of black people in the country.
Come on.
Yep. So yeah, they're all in California State Prison. But just on a side note, again, as we wrap this show up, we really are asking you guys out there to really share this video, share other videos, tell people about us. We're trying to boost our numbers up. We can only give you what we give you. We're not, those of you who's been with us for a while, we ain't about the flash. We're not about all of this stuff. We're not all about, the celebrity seeking and all this stuff. Well, I mean, we do what we do, but what we try to do is give you honest commentary from our point of view. We started off that way. We're going to continue that way. We have the no sellout zone, and that's what we are. We're still doing our documentary. So, the donation's been kind of down, y'all. I mean, look, $1, $2, $5, something. Because this year we're trying to finish it up this year. We already got a lot of it started. So, hit the Patreon. Go to GoFundMe.
You can
I mean, you can give us $5 a week just so we can get the film done, man.
Something. I mean, but exactly what you said. Y'all don't want to get bloody, and y'all don't want to give up all.
But this goes to family too, because a lot of my family members be checking us out, and I don't see y'all putting nothing in the pot, man. So
I can't say that about my brother, Clee. Hey, Clee, my brother's watching. I know you broke. Right. I don't expect you to.
But what I'm saying is that we're still trying to build this platform. We're also trying to work with other groups, political groups and other groups, to try to connect them with the urban demographics where they live and where we live. Right. So again, if we're just saying, just get the word out, because we're not, we want to do more than just give this information out, give the graphs and stuff. We like this part of the work, but we understand, man, that we got to go further. So I mean, please push us and push this so that we can really continue to do the work that we're both passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, we would appreciate your support, and you can find us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Luqman Nation, LuqManNation on YouTube. Obviously, like us on Facebook. You can also find us on Twitter, Luqman Nation 1. GoFundMe, Patreon, Luqman Nation. Live 6:30 to whenever we feel like stop talking on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights. Saturday nights, you have Pit Bulls in Politics. It's his show, right, all by himself, because I talk enough, don't I? And yeah, stay tuned. We will be live again on Sunday night. Share this video. Is that it? Got anything else?
That's it.
Thank y'all very much for joining us. Be really, really good to each other. And as always, peace.
Bye-bye. I always wanted to do that.
I like that. That was my favorite.
Yeah, I always
I
wanted to do
missed
that.
that.